Oh, great. Okay, great.
Good.
Um, so just to give you a bit about my backstory, uh,
Hmm.
I was adopted when I was 4 months old. So I was raised in an all-white community. My brother is white. My sister is also adopted Korean, but we're not biological.
Hmm.
And so growing up in that environment was very unique because I felt very disconnected. Like not only like from a physical standpoint, like my parents look nothing like me, but then also just I always knew from the time I was really young, just as many of the people that you speak to, I always knew in my soul that there was more. I
Yes.
and I spent many, many years trying to figure out if that was, if I felt disconnected because I was adopted. I wondered if I felt disconnected because I was the only, like one of the only Asian people amongst all white people growing up. I had I had always wondered what it was. And so throughout the course of my life, I had thought like, oh, I must feel this emptiness because of this, of because of being adopted, of because of being discriminated against, or maybe it's because I'm constantly longing for more and better and greater things. So throughout the course of my life, I've always been like a seeker and a striver. Like I've always been like um, looking for the next best thing. Uh,
Hmm.
and I worked really, really hard. And I moved out of my hometown. I moved to New York City and I built a career that was very successful. And then, one day I got laid off from my job. And my job was really the defining point in my life. It's everything that I wrapped myself up with in terms of worthiness, in terms of self-esteem, and all of that. So when all of that came crumbling down, I felt very, very lost and very confused. And so I started seeking at that point, and that was 10 years ago. So I started like doing a lot of tons of reading. I've read so many books. And actually, what led me to you, I've done so many seminars, so many books and retreats, and I've gone down that whole seeking path in a very, I took it very seriously. And I made it like my full-time mission, basically, as I was like, wading through life and raising children and everything. Um, and so over the past 10 years, I've been like meditating and practicing all kinds of different things just to see what resonated with me. I've been joining like mentorship groups and masterminds and things like this. And the only what I've realized is the only thing that alleviated my suffering was part of this like non-dual practice is really just kind of like chopping off the head and disassociating,
Yes.
depersonalize
Yes. Great.
myself, my persona from my soul or
Yes.
my true awareness.
True potential.
Exactly. Yeah, that was really the only thing that helped me. I mean, I've been able to manifest so many beautiful things in my life and such an amazing family and children and just the quality of my life is really beautiful. But I
Fantastic.
still had that underlying suffering
Mm.
just nagged and nagged at me constantly. I've also had like suicidal tendencies my whole life, just
Right.
and it just weighed on me so heavily that I knew there had to be a better way of living.
Mm.
So when I came to the non-dual practices, I went down the whole rabbit hole. I listened to Hale Dwoskin, and then I was led to The Greatest Secret, which I had already listened to The Secret in the past, but not The Greatest Secret. And then that led me to you, and I listened to a bunch of your conversations, and I was able to realize my true awareness
Fantastic.
throughout the course of listening to those conversations and having the conversations with Colette as well.
Mm.
I'll say I've probably been listening to your conversations over the past 4 months or so.
Hmm.
Um, and then what I didn't realize actually was that my mind, in my mind, I was still practicing spirituality. So it was like a mindset determination to
Mm.
like
Yes.
learn these different practices and get really good and advanced at meditating and all of these things.
Mm.
I still do find myself falling in the trap of the mind constantly.
Mhm.
It's not quite as heavy as it was, but it still does weigh on me pretty
Mm.
profoundly. I've even been walking in the forest a lot, pretty much every single day. I drive to this park that has all of these trails and they're all through the
Mm.
forest. And it does give me a sense of peace
Mm.
that helps me a lot.
Good.
But the mind is the thing that I get confused on because I don't quite understand if I am my mind, if I'm thinking from an like I know that intuition and being intuitive is not really of the mind.
Mm.
It's more of the senses, if I'm correct. Is that how you interpret it?
Well, really, there are two kinds of intelligence. The one is coming from your infinite nature, and the one um, is the dualistic consciousness, which generally, finds its way into the mind. But the mind, the mind functions in three ways, really. The one is in alignment with your infinite nature. The second aspect is the sort of practical aspect of the mind, organizing and the sort of logical aspect. And then the third one is where it's connected to the dualistic system, which is really an energy system. And that's the problematic one. But
Oh,
as you become familiar with the three different options, then it becomes quite easy to detect the source of the content being delivered into the mind. And then you can utilize it in a much more effective way and eliminate the aspects which are unfavorable.
okay. So would you mind explaining, like giving me examples of the three?
Yeah.
I understand duality. I understand like the mental and emotional and physical realm.
Yes.
Um, because I've been functioning that way for 47 years. So I'm very
Sure.
clear on what that is.
Sure.
I'm very clear on those.
Yes.
The other two, I feel like I mix. And I feel like I confuse maybe the second version with the dualistic realm as well.
Right.
I get
Okay.
confused.
Sure. Well, I'd just like to say to begin with that your life experience, because the dualistic realm is an inversion, the reason for the challenges in the early part of life were actually designed to put you into personalization and keep you preoccupied in the personal realm, so that you're distracted from realizing your true infinite nature, which actually has been there all along. But you probably know that intuitively because it's something which, well, I know it's the case because of the conversations I've had with so many people, because it's a very common theme, really.
Hmm.
Um, but in terms of the different aspects, what I'd like to do is just to go through quite a simple sequence, if we could, just so there's clarity in each area. And then it'll be recorded on in the conversation as well, so you'll have a copy of it. So, so our true nature is attributeless being, one could say. So it's simply awareness aware of itself, or in Indian terms, they say the knower, the means of knowing, and the known. So that really is prior to the realms of experience. And the first kosher is infinite bliss, which is it's actually an infinite field, because what we're remaining as all along in reality is an infinite impersonal field of beingness, consciousness, and bliss. And so we we can become more familiar with our impersonal nature, and then from there we can experience infinite bliss. That's something which you may have experienced already to some degree. Sometimes we can find ourselves there without realizing, but the more we become familiar with the various options, then it becomes something we can consciously access. So we can talk about that more a bit later. But the second one is really the most important one, which is called, the second coach is called the body of wisdom, or effortless being. So effortless being is where all the forms arise equally and effortlessly. So when you're just resting in your true infinite nature as the infinite timeless being, then the being you are never changes. It's just this open space of infinite potential within which forms appear, and those forms can appear, and they're ever changing. So you, the infinite being, is never changing. It's always present and it's always knowing, but the content is constantly changing. So in any moment, the content is variable. So in this moment, there could be thoughts appearing, there could be emotions, images, the computer screen, the objects in the room. And when we're experiencing from the body of wisdom or effortless being, we're actually remaining as a neutral, effortless, infinite, impersonal field within which all the forms appear. So we could say there's effortless, impersonal awareness of the body mind sitting on the seat. There's effortless, impersonal awareness of the conversation, of the two voices, of the objects in the room, of the emotions appearing, maybe. And so when we're just resting as effortless being, there's no practice involved, there's no effort. It's just a case of noticing in the simplest possible way the forms appearing. So could you just mention,
Sorry,
pardon?
sorry for interrupting. The
No,
wis
that's okay.
So then the wisdom body is the witnesser, like how Eckhart says.
Yes, you could say that, yeah, because it's our true nature is prior to the witness, you could say, but the you could say the the wisdom body or effortless being is the knower of everything which is known. So
Okay.
so the so our true nature is awareness aware of itself, or the knower, the means of knowing and the known. Now in our true infinite nature, it's just awareness knowing itself, awareness aware of itself. So the knower is awareness, the means of knowing is awareness, and what is known is awareness. So in terms of the body of bliss, the knower remains as awareness, the means of knowing remains as awareness, but what is known is infinite bliss, which is an infinite impersonal field. And it's known by itself, one could say, because the first two koshas, because they're impersonal and infinite, they can only really know themselves. Whereas the three more dense ones, the mental, emotional, and physical, there's a sense of more limitation in those.
Right.
But if we take effortless being, it's really like an infinite ocean or field within which all forms appear. And in any moment, we can just notice those forms appearing, and they're, excuse me, they're particular to any moment. So in this moment, maybe you could just mention a few, any forms arising equally and effortlessly. And it's quite good to do it in a sequence from subtle to gross. So maybe thoughts are the most subtle forms appearing. So if there could be some thought forms, so we could say there's effortless impersonal awareness of some thoughts appearing. Um, there could be effortless impersonal awareness of some emotions. Then there's effortless impersonal awareness of perception. So there's awareness of the body sitting on the seat. So the awareness which is aware of the body sitting on the seat is actually impersonal, effortless awareness. It's just that we've been conditioned in the dualistic realm to believe that it's Christy who is aware of the body sitting on the seat. But that's a secondary version. But what's always there is impersonal awareness. So impersonal awareness is aware of the body, impersonal awareness is aware of the thoughts, impersonal awareness, everything's being registered in impersonal awareness. So awareness of the objects in the room, or awareness of the view through the window, or of um, distant voices, or whatever is appearing, the sun in the sky, everything is appearing effortlessly within the infinite field of awareness. So you're resting and remaining as that infinite field, which is a field of infinite potential, and then the forms appear as waves upon that. So in itself, it's formless, but the forms appear. So the thought forms appear, the emotional forms, the physical forms, the objects, the perceptions.
Okay, yeah, I understand that. I'm pretty clear on that. I mean, the effortless awareness is the wisdom body,
Yes,
which is basically like if I'm just resting as effortless awareness and watching and noticing all of the occurrences that
yes,
that happen, there is like a sense of peace in
yes,
not associating with those events, whatever.
yes, exactly. Yes. So it
Okay,
is like a witness in that sense because there's no identification involved. So we're not fueling them with any kind of personalization. It's just it's the simplest form of awareness, really, one could say, which is effortless.
that's what I have had glimpses of experiencing where I feel like this release of
Mhm.
pressure and just the somatic experience of
Mm,
whatever emotion it is I'm feeling when
mm.
I can just disassociate, depersonalize myself from the event.
Yes, yes,
There is relief there, definitely.
yes. Well, the mind sometimes gives invitations to make it seem as though that is an objective, but actually it's ever present. And if we just look at the distinction between effortless being in the mind, we can see that. So if we just take this moment, so could you just mention a few forms appearing? So,
Sure. Um, I have a sensation of being nervous if I'm observing this properly.
okay.
Um,
But could we just, if we could just tune it slightly, because um, to experience from impersonal being, it's actually more effective to use impersonal language because we've been conditioned to use personal language, which then creates the sense of personalization without us realizing that that's what's happening.
right.
But so if we just take the forms appearing, so really even something which you've been told is personal, like nervousness, it's actually known by impersonal awareness. So the truth is, there is effortless impersonal awareness of a slight frequency, which has been called nervousness, but it's actually known by impersonal awareness. It isn't Christy knowing it, it's impersonal awareness. And that's true when you're functioning clearly from effortless impersonal being, it is always impersonal awareness.
Yeah,
And
that's very helpful actually to think like, oh, there's awareness of a sensation of nervousness. Or
yes,
yeah, to not say I'm nervous or I'm
exactly.
feeling. Yeah, that's helpful.
Well, it's in that subtle distinction that peace is possible because it's in the personalization that we're actually fueling the experiences without even realizing. So if there is effortless impersonal awareness of nervousness, there's no link between impersonal awareness and the frequency of nervousness. So nervousness is like a little wave, which is just appearing on the infinite ocean of effortless being. And if it's being experienced impersonally, it's just noticed, but you're not actually connecting your energy field to that and fueling it. So it actually remains independent and you remain at peace. But if it's the process of personalization which fuels the identification, and then without us realizing, we're investing our energy in the personal realm, and that is giving rise to the intensity, the nervousness, the personalization, and the various ways of experience, which we're then kind of committed to on a personal level.
Right. And it's so easy because that's the whole way we've been living as that
Yep.
narrative.
Exactly. Since we were born, we were conditioned into that mode, using words like I, me, or mine. They're actually forms of consent because we're actually remaining as the infinite impersonal being all along. You can't be anything other than the infinite being. It's just that you can play this little game of hide and seek by pretending that you are Christy. And the way you activate the personalization and animate the character is by using words like I, me, or mine. Because if the sentences contain those words, or if the thought stream contains those words, then it's giving rise to personalization. And then we're on the ride of personalization. But if we're just remaining as impersonal being, when we're not using those words, we're aware of the motion, we're aware of the various flow of invitations and thoughts, but we're not taking delivery of them and energizing them through personalization.
I know I have found meditation helps me a lot because it helps slow down the thoughts because
Mm.
the thoughts come so quickly that you
Yes.
it's difficult to be able to catch yourself.
Well, initially, meditation's quite good because you can become familiar with silence, and you can also disconnect from the thoughts. But gradually, what will happen is you'll realize that you can disregard the thoughts because it's really through habit that we're activating the thoughts and we're energizing them through personalization. But when you see the process, it becomes quite easy actually to just disregard them.
Yeah, you're saying like you become more habitual in living as the effortless awareness.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
I know that part is the part that I'm really curious about because right now I do feel like I need to make this effort. Like there's this like effort at catching myself.
Yes.
Um,
Well,
And
that's the
I,
mind, actually. The mind's trying to keep you engaged.
yeah,
So
yeah.
it's trying to say, well, really, you need to make effort to become free. But actually, that's the mind telling you that because effortless being requires no effort. It's what you already are. So any effort really is keeping the game going.
I know, but I have to remind myself. I have to remind myself that I'm not the mind.
While it's gradually, you'll see how the invitations are being delivered and the way the structure works because um, a good way, really, rather than analyzing the content, is to know the frequency and the nature of the invitations being delivered, because anything which is coming from your infinite nature has a feeling of expansion and infinite possibility. Anything coming from the mind has a feeling of contraction and limitation. So you know exactly where it's coming from.
Oh, okay. All right. I mean, that's very simplistic. It's like if it feels good, it's
If
coming
it,
from my infinite nature. If it feels
yes.
bad, it's coming from my mind.
And it's maintaining the sense of personalization and limitation. It's very easy, actually. So we don't need to, when we know that, it's only really an extension of what we're already doing, which is everyone really wishes to be happy and experience joy, expansion, and infinite possibilities. Nobody really wants to experience pain and suffering. But when it's explained that the one is coming from your infinite nature, so anything which is leading to that sense of expansion, lightness, joy, love, compassion, then that's keeping you in alignment with your infinite nature. Whereas anything inviting you into fear or pain or limitation is trying to get you to invest in the personal realm and keep you in alignment with the dualistic realm.
I understand that. That's very good. I okay, so here's a scenario because I feel like through my conditioning from childhood and everything, I was really in an environment where there was like a lot of abuse, verbal abuse, emotional abuse, and depression.
Mm,
And I feel like my tendencies lean in that direction. Like it
mm.
just feels so familiar
Yes,
to be existing on that plane.
yes.
And I I know that these aren't the right words, but I have for many, many years have like fought my way out of living in that existence
Mm,
where I just feel stuck. Like I've often said, like I feel like there's a little gray storm cloud following me around. Like
mm.
even during happy times, there's always this underlying feeling of um like depression, I'll say.
Yes, yeah.
So in that instance, when I'm kind of stuck in that in those feelings, it's it some days or weeks, it's very rare that I feel good
Mm,
or rare that I feel like uh, you know, uh, inspired or motivated.
mm, mm,
So, what would you suggest in those moments? I mean, going back to effortless awareness, but when
mm.
you're kind of in this like funk.
Yes. Well, it's really understanding the dualistic realm and how that functions, because the intelligence which is available when you're in alignment with your infinite nature, you could say is God's intelligence. It's infinite and it's benign. It wants the best for you, and it will guide you in a way which is to do with your true purpose, your highest potential, infinite possibilities. The dualistic realm, though, which is a combination of the mental, emotional, physical, is like an energy construct. It's almost like a computer game. And it's good to think of it in that way because it works on a very similar set of principles, really. Because you could say that in the dualistic realm, the objective is of the game. There are computer games like this, really, but you could say the objective of the dualistic game is to try to steal all of your energy by keeping you attached to personalization. But your objective is to get through the game and keep all of your energy intact.
Right.
And so the way it works is that when when we took delivery of the body, mind at birth, it wasn't explained that it's actually wired to these two distinct forms of intelligence. So the one which is guided through your life primarily is your infinite nature. That's why we're having this conversation. That's why you've had that sense that there's something more. That's why you've never ever fully accepted the limitations of the dualistic realm, but because all of that inspiration and clarity and determination has come from your infinite nature.
Right.
But the nature of the dualistic realm is to try to keep you in limitation, because the dualistic realm has no energy of its own. The only way it's energized is by getting people to invest their energy in it, because you're the sovereign infinite being, and you're the one who decides where you invest your energy. Now, because the dualistic realm is trying to make you believe that investing in the dualistic realm is compulsory, most people are doing that. So they're investing in the personalization, they're investing in the trauma, the difficulties, the limitations. They're preoccupied with all of that without realizing that there's actually quite a simple solution, because the solution is that you're the sovereign being, and you're the one who determines where you invest the energy.
Mm,
And so when you know that the mind is the device, it's like a transmitter and a receiver. So the dualistic consciousness knows everything about you. So it knows primarily that your purpose for showing up in the dualistic realm is as a representative of the infinite being. And it doesn't want you to discover that. So because the dualistic realm is an inversion, it's it's been trying to keep you preoccupied with personalized content. And the content you've taken delivery of regularly, things like depression, um, are the tools that are being used against you.
mm,
Now, if you take your family situation, for you, because your alignment with your infinite nature is very powerful, and the dualistic realm knew that. So when you came into the dualistic realm, or you started playing this dualistic within the dualistic construct, it would only permit you to come in circumstances which had the potential of keeping you engaged in the dualistic realm and in the personal realm as much as possible. So it looks through your files and it says, well, what we'll do, we'll let Christy incarnate into this family, because there's lots of stuff going on there, like depression and abuse and preoccupation and all these things. We'll put her in where she doesn't feel at home either. And that's going to be a good mix to keep her preoccupied in the personal realm, so she gets the least opportunity to discover her true status, which is that she's the infinite omnipotent being. And it's really like a little game in reality, because you're the infinite being, and because you've got eternity on your hands, you say, well, I'm just going to have a little bit of entertainment here because I know that I can overcome this. So I'm going to create the most extreme circumstances and find my way out of them.
yeah, it's been very extreme at times. So I mean, essentially, it's just choosing where to focus. It's just,
Well, it's understanding that the key really to freedom is knowing that the mind is both a transmitter and a receiver.
okay.
And the content which is being delivered into the mind is personalized. I've mentioned in some of the conversations that the dualistic realm works well. It works in a way which is similar to the algorithms on a computer. So if you take, say, Amazon or YouTube or any of those big platforms, they have a profile of you. So they know everything you've bought, they know everything you like to watch, they know your weak points, and they target them. And
Hmm.
that's how the dualistic realm works. So it has a file on you and it says, well, we've been very successful at keeping her engaged in frequencies like depression. So what we're going to do is we're going to continue to project thoughts, invitations, and circumstances to maintain that, because we know that she's invested her energy in those and in that sort of personalization all the time, and it's been very successful. So you've been investing in a scheme which has really been counterproductive, because you've been investing your energy. It's only your energy which has fueled, all of the unfavorable experience, really. But it's the dualistic realm is ingenious, because it's monitoring you in the same way as YouTube monitors you. It knows the content you like. It has a profile. There's the content you're watching. It knows how long you watch it for. It knows the themes. And then there's the side panel, which is like the side panel of invitations, really, which is the future invitations to try to keep you preoccupied. And that's how the dualistic realm is working. So when you know that that's what it's doing, then even the personalization and using language like, oh, I've suffered from depression all my life, that actually is maintaining the story of personalization, and that keeps the door open. But what's true really is the dualistic realm has delivered invitations into depression, but because it hasn't been explained to you that they are only invitations and you're the sovereign being, you can either accept or decline them, and it's only ever your own energy which fuels them, it actually becomes a very simple choice because, firstly, there's the distinction between the expansion coming from your infinite nature and the contraction coming from the dualistic realm. And then there's the predictability of the content being delivered because people tend to receive content in a fairly consistent way. So for some people, the theme could be, say, anxiety. For others, it could be anger. Others, it's depression. Others, it could be jealousy or inferiority. And so the dualistic realm always chooses the one which is most effective
Okay.
and the one that you've bought into most in the past.
Yeah, the easiest target.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, where you're like the most vulnerable.
Yeah.
I
But
understand.
so the way you become free of it is firstly to not personalize it. So you don't what you could say is there is awareness of a tendency to take delivery of invitations into depression. That's the truth, rather than, oh, I've suffered depression all my life.
Right. And then feeling like a victim and identifying with the feeling, which makes you feel even worse.
Yeah, and plugging your energy in, which is debilitating, because the reason we feel so energetically depleted after episodes of depression or anger or fear is because it's only ever our own energy which is fueling it.
Yeah.
So when you know that, it becomes very easy to stop doing it to yourself because it's like self-harming in a way.
Right. I mean, and I don't think of it as I guess I have throughout points in my life thought about me doing this to myself, especially as I've gotten older and I'm not in situations.
Mm,
It's just like the mental like
yeah.
chatter going on and on and on that's
Yes.
creating the suffering. But you're saying, I've heard you say this to other people too, where you say, once you start turning down the invitations, that they stop coming as frequently,
Yeah, exactly.
and then
Because
eventually they just
yes, yes, because the only reason they continue to be delivered is because you continue to take delivery of them. It's like a salesman. You know, if a salesman shows up at your door and you buy whatever he has on offer, then he'll be back again the next week.
yeah,
And then you buy it again and he keeps showing up. But if you actually make the decision, well, actually, I don't want to buy any more of these, whatever it is,
mhm,
um, then then you just get it clear before he shows up. Actually, I'm just going to politely decline, the invitation to buy this stuff. And it's very similar with the mind. So if you just kind of review the prominent invitations, so say the prominent invitation is depression, then it's knowing that the dualistic realm is using that as a weapon against you to try to get you to invest your energy in it. So when you know that, you're more alert to the invitation. So rather than getting in the personal mode, oh, I think I'm going to be depressed this week, you're on alert because you know that the depression salesman is going to be showing up at your door.
yeah, yeah, that makes
And,
sense.
and
Yeah,
as you detect the frequency emerging, then you're watching it with interest, really. Oh, this is quite interesting the way this is coming in. It's trying to get me to take delivery of this, but actually, I'm not going to. So you just observe it. And because the only way it is fueled and the only way it becomes intense is through personalization.
right. I mean, I have caught many things actually over the past 4 months.
Great.
Yeah, where
Fantastic.
I've thought to myself like, oh, here we go. And
Mm.
then I'm like, okay, relax, because you know that this is just a thought.
Yeah.
and don't give it so much credit. It's just a passing thought.
Yes.
Um, and then it occurred to me at certain points as I catch myself that and I'm declining the invitations, it's occurred to me then if there are so few thoughts then that are running through my head, especially the negative ones, there's just empty space, and that empty space is where pure potential is. Is that right?
Exactly. Exactly. Because what happens is, as you withdraw the investment in personalization and in the content you don't wish to experience, like depression, then the energy which previously was fueling the experiences you don't wish to have becomes available in terms of the potential of your true nature. So your life purpose and the aspects of experience which are favorable, things like increased love, compassion, synchronicity, inspiration, intuition, all of the really good content becomes energized um, because you've reclaimed the energy from the dualistic realm and it becomes available in terms of your infinite potential.
So it just naturally goes in that direction once it's liberated.
Well, yeah, well, really, what's the truth is that we're all the infinite, omnipotent, omnipresent, timeless, indestructible being, and which is completely effortless. It's
Mhm.
just that for the sake of a contrast in experience, we've invested a huge amount of energy to experience things like depression, personalization, because it takes a massive amount of energy to actually maintain those experiences because they're so contrary to what our true nature is, which is effortless, joyful, light, and infinite possibilities.
Yeah, I feel like those feelings feel so unfamiliar to me. Like the heavy ones feel familiar. And so
Yes.
living in a state of effortless being and bliss and wisdom, I have moments of feeling those things, but I'm not living in a state where that's my world.
Right. Well, it's quite good to be because effort has been an aspect of your conditioning. And it's served you well, actually, because you've been successful. You have a powerful mind. You're very strong-willed. So you've actually achieved lots of things in your life, and and things have worked out very well. As you say, your life experience is really good. What you can do is change the nature of the experience, though, to make it more light and playful.
Yeah.
And the way to do that is to actually reduce the amount of effort because we we're conditioned to be investing in effort right the way through life, especially if you have a family, because there are responsibilities, to your boys and to your husband, your home. And generally, the way we address those is through effort, and we tend to put our own welfare at the back of the queue in terms of where we're prioritizing our energy. But actually redefining the nature of your experience is the way you can begin to transform it. Because if you take if you take any day, there are certain responsibilities that you have, certain practical considerations to do with the welfare of the family. But there's also free space. And one of the things you're doing already is like walking in the woods. So that really is that's an example of being able to align with effortless being because the mind probably becomes quieter and there's more of a sense of spaciousness. But with
I practice walking meditation in the forest where
fantastic,
I let my mind just relax and not create any opinions or thoughts as
yeah,
much as I can.
yes, yes, great. And just other aspects though, in terms of your daily experience, it's quite good just to define every day for it to be as joyful as possible. So you have certain responsibilities to your family, but around those responsibilities, you just make it as light and joyful. And also, you begin to treat yourself as the sovereign infinite being rather than as a slave within the dualistic realm, the way we've been conditioned. Because
Yeah.
everyone's been conditioned to be a slave to the dualistic realm. Oh, we have to work hard, I don't get any space. And, but actually, it's only because we're the infinite being and we've adopted those sorts of limitation that we've constructed the life experience in that way. But actually, when we begin to redefine the experience and we say, well, actually, I'm going to make the priority every day is for life to be as light and joyful, effortless, loving, and unified as it can possibly be. So you redefine the nature of everything. So not creating any sense of hurry with anything, being rested, eating quality food, doing things as a family, anything which gives a sense of expansion, expansion of the heart, expansion of possibilities, a sense of ease and timelessness, and just build those in. So the priority every day isn't to um, be in service to the dualistic realm and to be making lots of effort. It's to be more playful and childlike so that actually you're honoring your true nature, which is that you're the infinite sovereign being, deserving of respect, and therefore you redefine the day so that it's just as joyful and light as possible. And what you find is that because we're playing a frequency game, that we redefine the frequencies because each of the koshas have a range of frequencies in them. So if you take the emotional body, for instance, well, each of the koshas, they're structured in terms of the colors of the rainbow. So the lowest frequency is red. So it goes red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet. So we can begin to climb through the frequencies within each of the koshas. So with you could say with effortless being, the lowest frequency is neutrality. So so where there's effortless being, because effortless being is impersonal, we're not able to take delivery of any personalized content there. So even if there are invitations into the emotions or into thoughts, we can only just be effortlessly impersonally aware of them. And
Right.
then
Yeah.
and so we can then climb through the frequencies in the body of wisdom or in effortless being. So they go from neutrality and then they go into things like inspiration, um, synchronicity. They can be, various forms of creativity, love, compassion, euphoria, and then it can take us into bliss. So
I,
if we so,
yeah.
sorry, Christy.
No, that's okay. Sorry. Go ahead.
So that's the sequence within the body of wisdom or effortless being. So that's the one to concentrate on more really, because um, when we make neutrality the lowest, then we're not investing in the aspects or frequencies that are counterproductive or, are actually usurping the energy.
What I was thinking is because it sounds like similar to the energy chakras with the color system.
Yes, yes.
And so what would neutral be? Like what color is the neutral part?
Well, it's actually gray.
Oh, okay. But the higher frequencies are like I guess maybe from the solar plexus up.
Yes. Well, because the thing to know is that the chakras generally are related, um, well, sometimes in terms of the energy body, which is the etheric body, and also in terms of the physical body. but actually the chakras relate to each of the bodies. So there's the chakra system um, within the body of wisdom, within the body of bliss, um, within the mental body, within the emotional body, and within the physical body.
Right.
So the red zone is like the danger zone. So the red zone in there is no red zone in effortless being. Effortless being, the lowest is neutrality, which is grey.
Oh, okay.
But in but in the mental body, the lowest is red. So that would be very dualistic mental content, things like hatred or judgment, those kind of things.
Okay.
And then it rises up, so the quality and the frequency of the mental content gets lighter and lighter. So when it gets to violet, which is the highest in the mental body, the mental body relates to the astral realm. So you could say that the violet realm would be like an angelic realm. So it would be the content where it's still dualistic, but it's on the level, it's very close to unity.
Okay. I didn't realize that each of the koshas had their own
Chakra system.
yeah, yeah.
Mm.
I thought maybe like it went from like red all the way up to, indigo or violet,
Mm. Mm. Mm.
just by the different levels, like bliss
Yes.
would be indigo, violet, or whatever.
Mm.
Um, so
So, and then the emotional body. So the emotional body, the red zone, again, the most dense sort of emotion. So the red zone would be things like anger, fear, depression, anxiety, those kind of things. And then as we go up, David Hawkins has a chart. It's a more simplified version. He does it as a single chart, but he shows the sequence of the emotions and the potential that's available. But it's easier to understand in terms of the koshas because it's more specific then. So, but to consciously to consciously exercise or activate the higher frequency emotions is something which is favorable because the higher emotions don't deplete us energetically, they enhance energetically actually. So things like love, compassion, joy, they're energy enhancing, whereas the low frequency ones are energy depleting.
right, I know. I wanted to tell you that because I've been in the fashion industry for like 24 years.
Hmm.
So I've always been a creator, and I know you're an artist too.
Hmm.
Um, and I feel so alive when I'm creating, whether it's,
Exactly.
yeah, whether if it's clothing or um I've recently started like creating content because throughout my whole process of like freeing and liberating myself and on my spiritual journey, I've been just creating content for free for people to listen to. And
Yes.
I feel like I feel really passionate about that at this point, just to
Yes.
share as much as I can, just to help
Yes.
as many
Mhm.
people as possible, because there's so much
Okay.
unnecessary suffering, and so many people, more than not, don't have a spiritual practice for
Yes.
so many reasons, So
Yeah.
I'm trying to just get as much of a voice out there as possible. But I find myself wrestling at the moment because there's this part of my egoic mind, because I've been so conditioned on like worthiness around money. So it's
Mhm.
like, you know, it's the whole tug of war between like I want to do this from my heart, and at the same time,
Mhm.
the you know, the more egoic side is like, well, when are you going to start like making some income again? You know?
Yes.
So, what is your take on that? Because I've been wrestling with that a bit.
Well, the solution actually isn't in the mind. The mind will want to keep you in limitation, and the mind pretends that it has a solution. So it's saying, well, when are you going to make some income again? But actually, what you'll find is that um, if you're following the inspiration, so that's a feeling of expansion. And the reason really that things have progressed for you is because um, all the creativity, all the creativity comes from the body of wisdom. So throughout your life, that's really been your lifeline in a way, because the creativity is coming from your infinite potential. And that's why it has that feeling of expansion and lightness and joy. And so the solution really is in, well, the simple solution is in the sort of practicality of daily life. So the way you do that is you don't take big risks in terms of your family. So you do whatever's necessary to keep your family intact and, financially supported. But in the time that you have available to be inspired, you're doing things which are in service to your infinite nature. And it sounds as though there's a very specific role that you're playing, which is where creativity is something that you're using, because creativity is something which can activate the body of wisdom or effortless being without people realizing that that's what they're doing. So creative people, whether they're artists or musicians or writers or even people in sport, um, when they're functioning from effortless being, they're enhancing the ability to function from there. And the content that comes from there is of a completely different nature to the content which comes from the mind.
Right.
So so if you take the creativity is coming and that's flowing through effortlessly, it gives a feeling of expansion and joy and lightness and infinite possibilities. And then the mind is coming and saying, well, what about this and what about that? And that's the contraction.
Okay.
So you can see the way they work. But on a practical level, what I would say is that certainly follow the inspiration that you have, because that will actually begin to yield some kind of revenue, to enable you to do that more and more. But it'll be presented to you. But the key really is in knowing that whatever comes from your infinite nature will come to you effortlessly. Whereas anything that's coming from the dualistic realm will require effort. So you'll know the difference. And so you'll find that you'll be guided by the things, and you're guided by your own joy in a way, because that's guiding you to do what inspires you and feels expansive. And then it'll be a sequence of things where that becomes progressive, and you'll be led by your own intuition and creativity.
I get tripped up by intuition. I know I mentioned that but you were saying that if it feels joyful, that it's coming from my infinite nature, and if it feels wrong, that it's coming from my mind.
Yeah, if it's well, the bottom line really is never to do anything based on fear.
Right. I know, but isn't there some level of calculated risk that comes with life? You need to take a chance. Like, I guess defining the fear versus like the negative fear versus just like the fear of the unknown.
Yeah, well, what actually happens is the more you align with effortless being, the fear of the unknown, which is the mind's interpretation, actually becomes a sense of adventure, because rather than being afraid of the unknown, you realize that it's a field of infinite possibilities. And because you know you're being guided by your infinite nature, you can let that be your guide. And then you can just be very, very childlike in the way you experience it, because you know it's going to be guiding you. And when you cease to entertain the dualistic content, then your energy becomes completely aligned with your higher purpose, which is coming through from your infinite nature. And then it results in more and more faith and trust in that. And then you see that that's the way it works. And it's really that the game that is being played really is that your infinite nature is of infinite potential and it comes to you effortlessly, but the dualistic realm has conditioned you to believe in effort, striving, and fear. And it's really just making the transition from the one to the other. But because everything in the conditioning has been based on things like fear, logic, using the mind, planning, and all of the things which require effort, then if you say to most people, well, actually, there's this resource of infinite intelligence which is available to you. It has your best interest at heart. It wants everything to work out for you. It knows your life purpose and it will support that. And it's delivered to you effortlessly. Most people would say, well, that's nonsense. But it's actually true.
Well, even in the moments that I've experienced the feeling of relief, it's wonderful. It
Mm,
feels it feels like how life is meant to be lived.
exactly.
Yeah, I know that. And I mean, I guess the practice is the deconditioning of the conditioning I've been put through.
Well, I'd see it in a slightly different way because most forms of therapy, I know you've been involved in different kinds of therapy, but most forms of therapy and most forms of spiritual practice actually are in service to the dualistic realm because the basis of them is personalization. It's the idea you have a problem. Oh, Christy has suffered from depression. She had these experiences when she was a little girl. It's been very difficult and it's, continued throughout life. The dualistic realm wants to turn that into a job where you're making a lot of effort to try to overcome those things. But really, what it's doing, it's keeping you in service to the dualistic realm, which requires effort.
Right,
The remedy, though, is to change focus from the problematic aspect because you're the infinite being. And it's only that there's the potential and the conditioning to drag the past into the present moment, but you don't need to do that. It
right.
requires a lot of effort to do that. You're the pristine infinite being, and in this moment, you can either function from your infinite impersonal nature, which is totally joyful, or you can reactivate the personal mode. But the more you realize that you can redefine your experience in terms of effortless impersonal being, then you'll find that the things will just guide you. And it's just it's the change of focus and the change of frequency. So that's why, on a practical level, it's redefining the way you do that. An example I give is when I'd been living in a spiritual community for about 5 years, and I owned quite a big property, and I needed to, get it renovated and to be able to sell it. But living in the community, I'd made no money for a long time, so I didn't have any money, so it was a bit of a conundrum. But what I realized is that the mind's version would be, oh, you need to get a job, you need to work 40 or 50 hours a week, and then in all your spare time, you need to devote to completing the work on this house. And then if you do that as quickly and fearfully as possible, then there'll be a point where you can be freed from that experience and you'll be very relieved.
Hmm.
That's the mind's version.
Right.
But what I played with is rather than turning it into an obstacle, I turned it into an opportunity for joy and expansion. So I redefined every day. So I had very little money. I could maybe buy a tin of paint or something, but this house had lots of rooms and needed lots of work. But I took the decision to work for maybe 4 or 5 hours a day, never with a sense of hurry, never with never motivated by fear, and just organizing the day to be as joyful as it possibly can be. So I loved meditating in the morning for an hour or so, and then I loved to have breakfast, take my dog for a walk for an hour or more. If he wanted to go further, I'd let him go. Um, Work maybe 4 or 5 hours and then finish at 4 in the afternoon and then just do things which were just really enjoyable.
Uh-huh.
So it's totally opposite to the way we've been conditioned because it's based on self-respect and it isn't based on fear. So there was no sense of, oh, if I don't get on, hurry and do this, I'm going to be in trouble. It was just making it as joyful and light as possible. And it took about a year and a half. What actually happened is every day was as delightful as it could have possibly been. I just really enjoyed every single day. No sense of hurry. My friend would come round, would have a laugh. If we wanted to stop and have a cup of tea, we'd just stop for half an hour. Um, but the value of the property actually doubled in that time.
Oh, wow.
So
Uh-huh.
so that demonstrated that was back in 2000. Well, I was between 2000 and 2002, and the property sold in 2003, and so that demonstrated that the way for life to be most effective is to have that sense of self-respect and to make every day as joyful and magical and delightful as you possibly can. And that's how I've lived since then. Every day has been for it to be as balanced and joyful, no overexertion, no pressure, just for it to be as delightful as possible. And because you're the infinite being, you can determine that. It's just that we've been born into a system which is an inversion. It's trying to convince you of the opposite of what your true potential is. It's saying you're depressed, you need to work hard, it's problematic, you know, you're going to have to really make a lot of effort to try to get free from all these problems you have, you know, Christy. That's what the dualistic realm's saying. But you just switch your attention
Yeah.
to things you enjoy and
I
you'll
mean,
be amazed by the way it works out.
yeah, I love that story because, in my intuition tells me that those things are right. And then my past conditioning, because I've been able to achieve so much by trying so hard, you know?
Yes.
Like, so my past conditioning is telling me, like, no, you need to do this, this, and this. You need to create
Mm,
this so you can achieve this and blah, blah, blah. Like that whole narrative
mm,
still, I need to release, release, release. And
mm,
what you said actually just reinforces where I know is where how I need to live,
mm,
which is just calmer, not so anxious. I mean, I live, I've lived in New York City for like over 25 years too, which
mhm.
is a very like, you know,
Yes.
fast pace and like dog eat dog world.
Mhm,
But I've been leaning away from that for the past 10 years and I've made leaps and bounds, put it that way, compared
yes.
to where I was.
Yes.
But I know that to live calmly and to live joyfully is my true mission because
Yes.
I've never really been able to sustain that for my whole life.
Mm. Well,
Lynn,
the dualistic realm, because it knows you have a powerful mind and it knows you can be focused and make an effort and work hard. It's supported the things which have actually kept you in service to the dualistic realm. That's the objective of the dualistic realm, to keep everybody busy, really.
yeah.
It's like a
I,
big job creation scheme.
yeah, I think the part um also is just the knowing, like for me to have the knowingness and the faith,
Yes.
that following my intuition is safe.
Yes. And do it gradually. So, you know, if there has been a lot of effort and a lot of focus and you've succeeded in that way, don't stop doing that and try to initiate things effortlessly immediately. You're better to make the transition gradually so that you're running them side by side for a little while. And then you'll begin to see that you can function from effortless being. And then the effort gradually falls away, and then more faith and more alignment with your infinite nature arises. And then you'll be in full alignment with your infinite nature.
Yeah. I actually haven't worked for a year. And I've taken the time, even though I've been beating myself up about not generating any money and not being, on the track that I was before, where it was just like I was going up, up, up,
Yeah.
that was hard for me to realize and to be patient with myself. But it was a year's worth of like deep healing for
Yeah.
me, because my mind was so tightly wound around that
Mm,
ego persona
mm.
that I needed to loosen up before I would be able to let in more.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
So
Well,
that's
a couple of things there, a couple of observations really. Um, you mentioned releasing, and releasing can be effective to a degree, but it provides temporary relief, I would say. But it is maintaining the personal mode, and it's keeping you in alignment with the dualistic realm, really, because um, it's like a hamster's wheel in a way, or like a conveyor belt, because no matter how much releasing you do, there's always more to release. You never get to the end of it, because the dualistic realm has a big investment in keeping you engaged. So lots of the spiritual practices, like releasing, keep you engaged in effort, and you never get to the bottom of it. But the thing to know about the idea of the ego mind is it actually really doesn't exist. We can spend a lot of time battling it and countering it and whatever, fighting with it. But actually, when you know that it doesn't really exist, it becomes much easier. And the way you know that it doesn't exist is because if you take this moment, you're the infinite, pristine, timeless, impersonal, effortless being. That's what you truly are. And you never become the ego, you never become the personal entity. It's just there's an option to play the little game as though you do. And the way you do that is by using a script which contains words like I, me, or mine.
yeah.
And that's like the script in a play. And when you're using the script and you're incorporating personal language, then it's creating the sense that there really is this character called Christy when there never was. But it's a moment to moment activation, really, because all along you're remaining as the infinite, impersonal, timeless, pristine being. That's all you can ever be. But you can pretend that you're moving into personalization by delivering the lines, which is like the script in a play, which is the life and times of Christie.
I know, it's so wild because I literally need to catch myself moment by moment by moment.
Well,
To
you can just what you'll find is that because you're totally clear on your infinite nature, you know fully what impersonal being is. You've seen that, the conversations with Colette, you know that at the core, your foundation is impersonal, effortless, timeless being. You already know that. So you know that the personal realm is optional, and therefore you can regulate the degree to which you invest in the personal realm. So you invest in it selectively. So any aspects of the personal realm which are really light and expansive, like personal love, like love for your husband, for your children, for your family, your friends, maintain all of those aspects of personalization. But don't invest in the aspects which are counterproductive, like in any of the emotional frequencies which are depleting.
It gets so complicated though, because from moment to moment, there's so many different thoughts.
Well, really, the thoughts are a transmission. They're being beamed into the mind. They're not yours. They're being beamed in as invitations. It's like having a TV set on with a soap opera running, and that's being beamed into the mind. So you're trying to get on with your day, but you've got the TV on in the background delivering all of this content.
Yeah.
And initially, you become kind of entranced by it. But after a little while, you realize, well, actually, you can disregard it in the same way as if, if you're say you're in a room with your boys and they're watching TV programs that they like, um, you realize you don't need to focus on the TV programs. You get on with what you're doing, and that's just in the periphery, that's in the background. And
Right.
that's the way to treat the mind.
Right. Yeah. There is something that felt very unfamiliar with functioning as the infinite awareness, like regularly.
Hmm.
It just feels so foreign to me. Because I remember when you had a conversation with Colette, I listened to that one. That's how I was introduced to her. And she said that she would practice presence or practice being the infinite awareness.
Hmm.
And yeah, like I'm still kind of straddling between that and I'm not quite there with the sitting in the seat of self.
Let's just have a little look at that.
Okay.
So, so really the thoughts which you just voiced then were just delivered in as invitations into the mind. That was a delivery to try to get you to accept it and believe it.
Uh-huh.
The truth is though that what we've experienced really is a case of mistaken identity all along, because all along you've actually remained as the infinite impersonal being. That's all you've ever known. It's just that the dualistic realm has created this personalized experience and tried to make it seem as though that's the priority and that is really what you're experiencing, so that you have to return to your infinite impersonal nature. But the truth is you never left, and it's actually the only thing you've ever known. So if we use John Wheeler uses three words to describe one's infinite nature. He uses presence, awareness, existence. So if we take the present aspect, we could say that presence is the simple timelessness of any moment which we remain as. So we're not actually moving through time. We're always remaining as the infinite timeless being in this ever-present moment. All the stuff to do with time and events and things is part of the virtual reality construct.
Right.
So the presence is inescapable. So that's all we ever know. It's just that superimposed on that is the idea of time. But the time doesn't really exist. It's only like a construct. The awareness aspect is very simple and you're familiar with it. So awareness is actually impersonal awareness. So as we were saying earlier, everything is impersonally known. So even things like if we take, say, thoughts, we could say the personal version would be, oh, I'm thinking about what I have to do this afternoon. But the impersonal is there is effortless impersonal awareness of thoughts to do with activity or thoughts to do with something else. So the awarenesses are always impersonal, effortless awareness that is knowing anything. So the present is inescapable, and the impersonal nature of awareness is also inescapable. It's just that throughout your life, everyone has told you that it's Christy who's aware, when actually it's been impersonal awareness. And the one which actually makes it completely clear is the existence aspect, because everything in this world has been designed to make it appear as though you're existing as an entity called Christy. And so if most people are asked the question, oh, do you exist? The answer would be, oh, yes, I do. There's a very tangible sense of existence. Everybody has that sense of existence because it's just right here and now. But actually, that existence, what you're knowing, is actually the existence of your infinite impersonal nature. So in this moment, that sense of existence, which is completely familiar, you've always known it. It was present when Christy was a year old and 5 years old, 10 years old. That sense of just presence awareness and existence, which you've always known, um, before the mind is activated, is your infinite nature. And it's the infinite impersonal being. So it's the only thing you've ever been, and it's the only thing you've ever known, really. It's just that the dualistic realm is designed to convince you that actually, oh no, you're not the infinite impersonal being. You're this little lady called Christy existing in time and space for a few years.
Oh my God. Wait. Okay, okay, I understand. I and I know even the word understand is not the best terminology, but I do grasp that. And so then I'm thinking every single time I feel bad, it's just an invitation of thought. It's a thought invitation
Well,
that,
it's an invitation to invest in the dualistic realm. It's an invitation to invest your energy because what you're remaining as all along in this moment, you're just this open, neutral space of infinite potential, which is the infinite potential of the infinite effortless being, which is the only thing you can ever be. It's inescapable. You can't be anything other than that. The option, though, is to adopt some kind of contraction which is delivered as an invitation to try to get you to believe that it's true and invest your energy and belief in that. And if you do, then you animate that experience and then you have that experience. And the reason you can is because you're the infinite being projecting your infinite potential through filters of extreme limitation. But it's only because of your infinite potential that you can do that, really, because it's so contrary to what is true.
okay. I mean, I understand that I'm constantly creating just based on a limited train of thought.
Well, even even the words you use aren't quite correct because they
Oh,
include personalization.
I, yeah. Okay,
Because
so then how would I phrase it? There's awareness of,
you do it, you know how to do it.
okay,
There is
there's,
awareness of an invitation into taking delivery of a particular thought stream as though it's true.
that's good. There's awareness of taking hold of a particular thought stream that's limited. Because I love the ease in which Rhonda Byrne speaks about um her life because she's really like you just need to stop thinking about what you don't want and start thinking about what you do want,
Yes.
in simplistic terms. And if
Yeah.
and I guess that's like the easiest thing maybe for my mind because it is like a okay, so this is another thing because certain things do get filtered through thought.
Hmm.
And the good things filtered through thought are inspiration, they are intuition. Is that what you would call that?
Yeah, the intuition and inspiration find their way into the mind
Right.
on, on a conscious level. And they're coming from your infinite nature. So really, with what you could say about Rhonda is that the aspect of the law of attraction, which is very useful, is knowing that we're playing a frequency-based game.
Uh-huh.
So if we're entertaining the things that we don't wish to have, and we're focusing our attention on those and investing our energy in them, like fear, depression, anxiety, and whatever, they will perpetuate because we're the infinite being. And if we're shining the light of our infinite potential through those very dense frequencies, they'll manifest.
Yeah.
But as Rhonda says, it's only a matter of switching your attention to the experiences you wish to have. That's why I was saying to actually consciously define every day to be as joyful and delightful as possible,
Yeah.
but do it in a way which it maintains a sense of ease. Don't do it in sort of reckless way. You don't think, well, I'm just going to spend all my time and money and blow all my money and not think of the security of the family. You do it in a responsible way. So all the free time you can allocate to joy, delight, ease, and the magical aspects of your experience, you do that. If you've got to invest temporarily in life experiences which are to do with taking a bit of responsibility, then do that in the interim, because the main thing is not to create any fear. So if you just continue to do things in a way where life is balanced, to maintain stability, but then, say it's taking maybe 10 to 20% of your attention just to maintain balance and keep your family happy and secure and everything. But then you have maybe 70 or 80% of potential just to redefine everything in terms of the experiences you wish to have. You'll find that the frequency nature of the experience changes, and then you move up through the frequencies, the energetic frequencies in each of the koshas. So you're moving from red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and up to violet.
Yeah, it's really, really good because, like I said, I've been practicing, like, I've been on this spiritual journey for a number of years now. It's taken me a lot of, it's just, there's a lot of effort that's gone into
Yes.
the learning. Um, but what I realized is that there is no I. And with that, there's a huge amount of liberation.
Yeah.
Like you were saying, there is no me, my, or me, my, I. And when that really clicked for me,
Mm.
it was like, oh God, I'm off the hook. Like
Yes.
I don't, I
Yeah.
don't
Well, you were never on the hook, really.
exactly. But it made me realize that I didn't need to carry that. And
No.
that's huge amount of pressure and weight.
Well, really, what's happened is you're the infinite timeless being with infinite potential. And you've chosen to have this experience of limitation, really, as a bit of a challenge. And so initially, the dualistic realm inflicted all kinds of dualistic content on you, like the difficulties in your family experience in childhood, to keep you preoccupied. It noted that you're actually very powerful in terms of your will, effort, creativity, all of those things. So it kept you engaged in those aspects for quite a few years. But then, because you were never going to give up, because you're the infinite being, you started to seek in a spiritual sense. So you were looking for relief in a spiritual sense. But the dualistic realm thought, oh, well, what we'll do here, she's caught on to the fact that she's not going to be happy by pursuing all of this conventional stuff. Let's get her engaged in spiritual effort. So because we know that she's very committed, she'll really make a huge effort in whatever she does, very diligent. Let's put a really nice sequence where we keep her preoccupied for 10 years in the most, effort we can keep her engaged in. And that's really what's gone on. So it went from the effort in a conventional sense into spiritual effort. But what's available now is you realize that effortless being is your true nature. And it isn't necessary to be maintaining those sequences which involve effort, because what you're revealing to yourself, or what the self is revealing to itself, is that life is a magical opportunity and everything will be taken care of effortlessly when you just hand over responsibility.
Yeah, there's awareness of right now there's awareness of a sensation of nervousness with that.
Well, that's an invitation to try to distract you from the simplicity of what's available.
Right, right.
So you could just say there's effortless impersonal awareness of an invitation into nervousness, which is trying to distract me from the simplicity of the potential of my infinite effortless nature.
Oh my God. So it's just a matter of not identifying.
with those invitations. You're playing like it's like a little tennis game that whenever there's a cognition of simplicity, ease, and alignment with your infinite nature, the dualistic realm, it serves another ball over the net to try to keep you engaged in the dualistic game.
And it
So
catches me too.
so it delivers the invitation, but it's when the solution is very simple. It's just that all along we've been told that they're your thoughts, they're valid, you need to listen to them and you need to process them, when really what they truly are is invitations into limitation,
Yeah.
which are they're designed to keep you in limitation and energetic compromise. So once you know that, then it's very easy to actually decline the invitations, because it's like um it's like being told, well, if somebody comes to your door selling something, you need to buy something every time they come. But then when you realize they're selling you really poor quality goods, then you stop buying it.
You know what? I just had this thought that I need to keep you in my pocket. Like, like stop. That's an invitation.
Well, you'll very soon see how the game works, because it's actually very predictable, because it's the dualistic realm. It's watching everything that's going on, really. So when there's a feeling of expansion and potential, as there is in our conversation, then it's delivering tailor-made invitations to try to counter that. So it's to pretend that you need to make an effort, or that there's something challenging, or what about this nervousness? Oh.
Oh no. No, it feels empowering to be able to hear you speak so fluidly about how actually obvious and easy it is to catch these things, you know, because obviously I don't have a circle of people that I talk to about these things.
No.
So it's mostly me in my head, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's me trying to convince my mind, that the
Well, it's
effort.
like having somebody selling you detergent or something, and they keep knocking your door, and oh, it's very difficult to refuse. Well, it's very easy actually when you know you don't want it. You just, whatever the invitation is, and because the hook really is in thinking that they're your thoughts and they're valid, and you need to entertain them and listen to them, when really it's like an adversarial construct. It's trying to deliver things which are against your best interest. It's trying to keep you engaged so that you keep investing in the dualistic realm and having experiences you don't wish to have.
Right. And my question for you is, does I have had glimpses because I've been practicing for a bit where I'm like noticing like one, two, three, like little magical things happen in a row.
Yeah.
Is that what begins to unfold regularly?
Well, yes, that's exactly it. That's really encouraging that you've noticed that already, but that will increase, and you can
Already seen
consciously,
it. Yeah.
because it's all frequency based. So as Rhonda says, you just focus on the aspects which you wish to experience. So in your daily life, you obviously can define things on your terms. You're not working at the moment. It may be that at some point you need to do some work, but you probably don't need to work full time. And if you just begin to do things in a way where it's all based on joy, ease, lightness for you, your husband, and your family, then you'll find that you're just maintaining the experiences you wish to have. And the invitations into the ones you don't wish to have, you just don't entertain them.
Right. Yeah. I know. Uh, my my goal is to function effortlessly with fun and joy and lightness, because I also, I didn't mention this before, but I, over the past 7 years, I had built my own fashion brand.
Mhm.
And that was extremely, extremely uphill and tons of pressure and a lot
Yeah.
of stress and
Very competitive, isn't it?
very, very, very. And but there I had moments of alignment because my business was growing
Mm.
so rapidly at certain points in time. And then it would go like down, you know. So like the energetic in which I was functioning was not stable.
No.
Like I would go up, 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 and then down, you know.
Yeah.
So it was very like a roller coaster, up and
Yeah.
down. But yeah, I think practicing business or just like whatever I end up doing next professionally, I really do feel passionate about doing it from a place of giving, love, service, joy,
Yes,
ease, from that place.
definitely.
Yeah.
And not being competitive, that's an important aspect because the dualistic realm is set up to make us compare ourselves to other people, and whether it's in business or even like we're in spiritual teaching. But it becomes really easy when you know you're the infinite being, and the infinite being will flow through you unimpeded if you just allow that. And you find that you don't need to be concerned about what anybody else is doing. Your only focus and motivation is in what is inspiring to you. You don't need to consider anything else. And then
Right.
people sense that. People sense that it's wholehearted, and they align with it, and it puts them at ease as well. Because they want to be like that. Nobody really wants to be enslaved.
Right. Yeah, the energy is magnetic.
Mm.
The energy that you put off is magnetic to so many people too. That I think maybe it's just a matter of catching momentum. Would that be would that be fair to say, or is that also a more dualistic thing to say?
Well, that will happen actually, but it'll happen effortlessly because it's something you don't really need to give too much attention to.
Yeah, yeah,
So well, a simple example which I've mentioned lots of times is um, David Bingham was an artist and really enjoys, being an artist. That was, the thing I've just loved doing all my life. And then with self-realization, there was a feeling of wanting to share this knowledge with other people. And then so the mind intervened and said, "Oh, well, I know what to do." So the mind had this idea of what to do, which was based on effort and, trying to convince people.
yeah,
But that just fell totally flat because it was coming from the mind, and because one's infinite nature wouldn't support that. So there was just a kind of giving up. There was, well, I don't really know what to do. There was then really just focusing on enjoying life rather than in trying to initiate anything.
yeah,
So as soon as there was the letting go of the feeling of having to initiate anything, things started to happen. So people just started showing up, people who were ready for realization. And then there were invitations like onto conscious TV and different things. And I recognized by then that effortless being was at the helm. So anything which came in effortlessly. So if somebody knocked my door and said, can you help me with this? I would say yes. And then the invitations to appear on conscious TV, because they just came out of nowhere, I knew that I had to do them, even though on a personal level it wasn't the kind of thing that David Bingham would normally do. He's an introvert. He doesn't like really talking to people very much. But because it became apparent that that you're being guided in that way, and that it's coming from effortlessness, and then the whole sequence since then has been based on effortlessness. No, never initiate anything, never try to persuade or convince anybody. Just be available to be in service to the infinite being, and it just guides you. And it's just magical in the way it unfolds, and it reveals things all along the way. And it's progressive as well. So the mind isn't involved, but I notice the sequence, in terms of the conversations, the way things unfold. There's a real intelligence behind it all, and but it's magical. It's just amazing to witness, really.
Yeah, yeah. It it is. Even like in my early stages, I feel like it's just even like I'm starting to feel a little giddy thinking about that's all I have to do.
Well, that sense of giddiness is your energy being returned from the realm of effort into your infinite potential.
Right. Like my whole life has been like strategizing and planning and figuring things out and, striving for the next level. And
Mm.
and I'm like, effortless being, that those words are so foreign to me. Yeah. And having fun and functioning from a place of joy is
Mm.
like, what is that? So it kind of feels like too good to be true.
It does initially, but there's also a feeling within that which is very inspiring because you know that actually it is possible, and it's only a matter of just watching it unfold.
I know. And then there's awareness of this nervousness of, oh God, maybe too many good things might happen.
Well, because your infinite nature is infinitely intelligent, so it guides things in a way where it's regulated, where you don't need to take responsibility. It will, the sequence in which things unfold will be perfect because really there's the parable of the prodigal son, which I like, which is that we all go out on the road of duality and we allow the mind to be our guide. But the mind doesn't really know anything. The mind's an imposter, really. It's pretending that it's going to guide us when it doesn't know. So we go out on the road and then we find ourselves in all kinds of trouble and having to take responsibility for things.
Yeah.
But then there's a point at which we realize the futility of that. And then, so we say to our dad, can we come back home? And he says, oh, yeah, come on back now. And then the infinite being just takes over again. And all the things that we've been taking responsibility for, like, trying to structure our life and plan for things, we realize all that's foolhardy because the guide of the mind is the wrong, he's not really a valid guide.
Right. I know. It's like that quote Einstein, like the gift is the intuition and the its faithful slave needs to be the intellect, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So, but we, Westerners worship intellect. So
Mm.
that's where we end up getting stuck.
Well, everything in the Western world is designed to put us into mind predominance.
Right.
Whether it's the education system, the government, the media, absolutely all of it is designed, even the religions and spirituality, they're
Right.
keeping us within the dualistic realm.
Right. Right. I know. Like, because meditation is so temporary. I
Mm,
mean, meditation was a nice tool for me to slow the mind down enough to
mm,
catch myself,
mm.
but it's not lasting
No.
like like this, which is so exciting to me. The possibility of what's to come is very, very exciting.
Fantastic.
Yeah. It's so incredible. It must be so incredible for you to listen to so many people wake up.
It is. It's that's really it. the way faith in the infinite being has developed, because it's just witnessing the thousands of people over the years where consistently they've switched from mind predominance to alignment with their infinite nature. And it's, it's something which always works.
Now, I know you can't give me any answers, but I'm curious because you've spoken to so many people. The integration process, how does that like on average look, if you could even tell me on average?
Well, it's actually quite simple in a way, which is that all the conditioning we've had is to function as though we're a separate being, that we're a being existing in time and space. And then with realization, you actually see, well, I never was that all along. I've remained as this infinite, impersonal field of awareness and infinite possibilities. So the integration is the integration of impersonal, effortless being into the personal mode of experience. So the way that looks really is that it's the transformation from things like effort, striving, personalization, investing in the low frequency emotions, to joy, lightness, ease, and just allowing, our infinite nature is always available, and it'll find its way in. And the way we do that most effectively is to function from our sovereign nature, which is actually impersonal being. It's like the teacher Nisargadatta says. He says, "Remain as the I am."
Mhm.
What he, the I am, the infinite I am, is the impersonal being. So the solution is to remain primarily as the impersonal being. So even when you're with your family, resting as the impersonal being is something which you can do. It's only necessary to step into the personal mode when you need to contribute something. So if you're with your boys, with your husband, then you can be just resting as effortless impersonal being, which is neutral. They may be in the personal mode, so they can be talking about what they've done all day, or what they're interested in. But when you're resting as impersonal being and then step into the personal mode, it's something which is coming from a place of more consciousness. So it isn't coming from reactivity, it's just coming from that open space.
Mhm.
And it's something which just becomes more and more familiar. So you find that that impersonal functioning from impersonal being is integrated into the personal mode of experience.
Yeah, that's so good. I haven't heard you say that in the conversations that I've listened to. The integration of effortless being into the personal realm, I guess, right?
Yes. Yes.
How the process of that, which is what you've said to me a few times now, and it's sinking in, like just the ease, the joy, the effortlessness, just practicing into that way of being daily and deliberately.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, that's great. That's perfect. It's like so easy and clear.
Good. And quite neat. Uh, an interesting or quite useful way is the mind is often trying to interject. So if something arises, if there's a question or some solution required, the mind loves to dive in immediately and say, oh, this is the answer, this is what we need to do. And it's usually based on effort, hard work, and activity of some sort.
Mhm.
What you find from effortless impersonal being is usually when something emerges, you just give it a little bit of time and you just wait for the solution to appear, and it tends to appear effortlessly. It
Right.
doesn't require effort, it's just quite a simple solution.
But the solution, it'll float in as a thought, right?
Yeah, as a thought or a feeling, or it could be a phone call, or it could be something somebody says.
It takes
It,
different
it
forms.
can come from anywhere, really. Yeah.
Okay,
But
okay,
the key is in knowing that it always comes effortlessly.
okay. Yeah, because I always tend to have that knee-jerk reaction where I'm like, I need to do this,
Yeah.
and
Yes.
and always that's probably the wrong thing because it's reactive.
It's reactive, yes. But
Uh,
it's just being attentive to the things which come in. Anything which comes in effortlessly, just be attentive to, because quite often that's the way you're being guided.
okay, good. I know. I think it's a matter of slowing things down and
Mm.
for me mentally slowing things down because
Yes,
I'm so used to being like a rapid fire thinker, decision maker, and person that answers things
yes, yes,
immediately. But that's
yeah,
not really the way that intuition works. It needs to come in during like a peaceful moment.
yes. Well, it's good you've seen that because it's actually, you could say it's a life choice in a way to, be in the sort of rapid fire mode. It's
Oh yeah,
something that you've adopted because that's what the dualistic world tells us. Oh, you need to be sharp, you need to be alert, you need to be ever on your guard, ready to give an answer. When
right.
actually it's um it's
It's
the opposite of
subtle.
that, really.
It's subtle.
Mm,
I've noticed that like my somatic, like sensory intuition, like when I feel things,
mm.
it's very subtle.
Yes.
It's not like this punch in the gut, or it's not this,
No.
it's very soft.
Mm.
And you need to be open enough to hear it or feel it.
Yes. Yeah, definitely.
I always have to remind myself of that because again, like I'm so identified being a New Yorker because I've lived in New York most of my life. And so
Mhm.
for so long, like I prided myself in being like hard and like grinding and working and thinking fast and moving fast and all of that.
Mm.
Um, so it's just the opposite. I think
Mm.
this next chapter of my life is going to be slow and low. No. Slow and, and more subtle and easier, more ease filled, I think.
Do less and accomplish more.
Yeah, but you know what? That sounds so cliche, but I think that's really the way that all of this functions, right?
Mm. It
Do
does,
less
yeah.
to accomplish more
Mm.
because you're doing less because it's more easeful,
Yeah.
and then you're aligned, so you're accomplishing more.
It's the dualistic realm loves to give us a job, and the job of personalization is very arduous. It requires lots of mental and physical and emotional investment, but it's really giving authority to something which really doesn't have the capability of handling it. It's like, choosing somebody who is irresponsible to run the show for you.
Right, right. But then why do things work out? Like, for instance, I lived the first 40 years of my life from my mind,
Mm.
you know, and I was able to accomplish so much from efforting,
Yeah,
right?
well, effort is an option, and lots of people, lots of people live like that. In fact, most people on the planet are living from the mind, and they're living through effort. They believe that, we need to work hard, we need to make an effort. But the option of life being magical is something which has never been considered really.
Right. So the accomplishments that I've achieved in the past, I'm thinking maybe that they happened from effortless being, but I wasn't aware.
Well, all the creativity came through from effortless being. You know, the 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 aspects in terms of kind of structuring things were to do with your mental capability, which is very strong, and that's really an asset. So when you know that all the creativity and all the guidance and infinite potential comes from your infinite nature, that's great to know. But then the mind, in terms of the sort of organizing capability, is also very useful. That isn't something you give up. It's
Right.
something which is used to support the content coming from effortless being. The one really to begin to disregard is the content coming from the dualistic realm, which is designed to keep us engaged in the lower frequency, energy diminishing content.
Yeah, this is so perfect, like having this conversation with you, because it's just dotting all of the I's and crossing all of the T's, for my own personal experience that I needed clarification on. So
Good.
it's so helpful. I really appreciate the time. Thank you so
Good.
much. Yeah, it's great.
Fantastic. Well, it's great that you're so open and that the clarity is there. The conversations with Colette and the clarity which has emerged, is the basis because you're already fully familiar um, with your infinite nature, with effortless impersonal being. It's just that the practicality of functioning in the dualistic realm, but giving your infinite nature the opportunity to come through and have influence in your experience is something which can be sort of fine-tuned.
Yeah, I know. I noticed it's like a dance. It's like a dance between, you know, I guess everyday functioning, like from the mind. Because you
Mm.
don't, like you said, you don't lose the mind, but you need the mind, but you only use it as a tool, not as your guiding light.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah. So then it's like this dance between like you said, fine tuning and guiding the flow of the thought forms and whatever it is that's coming in and out,
Mm.
or whatever it is that's arising, right?
Yes, yeah, definitely.
Okay, that's really good. That's clear. I feel more confident.
Good.
I was feeling a little nervous earlier. I mean, I think re-listening to this video will help me a lot. That's how I really absorb, is by
Mm.
like listening again and again and again.
Well, what will become second nature is to realize that the option to remain as impersonal being is always there, and the personal mode is available. But because we've been conditioned to adopt the personal mode without even realizing, we're doing it lots of the time. And we're actually energizing the personal realm and the dualistic realm. So we're using words like I, me, and mine. But you'll begin to realize that it's much easier not to do that. And and as you do, you'll be withdrawing the investment of energy from the dualistic realm, which will become available in terms of your infinite potential. And that's when things start to become very interesting.
Oh, I'm so excited. Yeah, I'm really, really, really excited about this. So all I need to do is remember to just be effortless awareness.
Effortless impersonal awareness, yeah. And you don't
Yeah.
really need to remember. It's just because you are that effortlessly. It's just that gradually there'll be a kind of unwinding of the tendency to unconsciously step into the personal realm when you don't need to. And that can happen very rapidly because you notice the energetic benefits of remaining as impersonal beings, so you tend not to adopt the personal mode.
Yeah, I feel like I'm wondering when I'll stop feeling like I need to remind myself.
Yeah. Well, the secret really is very simple, which is to just consciously define every day in terms of having the experiences you wish to have. So it's like Rhonda says, just listen to what Rhonda said. You just take your attention off the things you don't wish to experience and put them on the things you do wish to experience. And it becomes really easy then because you're naturally um, functioning from the higher frequencies. and your life will naturally recalibrate in that way.
Yeah, when I'm talking to you, it feels so easy. So I need to absorb.
Yeah, well, it'll just happen. It'll happen naturally and happen very easily.
Good. I'm so glad. I'm so excited to have spoken with you for this long. Thank you so much.
Well, it's been lovely. Yeah, it's been really nice. It's great that you're so open and receptive.
Oh my God, I've suffered enough. I told myself at like, I don't know, somewhere in my mid 40s, I'm like, I'm done with the suffering.
Mm.
I'm really just ready to live.
Mm.
Yeah, so by whatever means necessary.
By effortless being, that's all that's necessary.
I know, I know. It's so incredible. It's so incredible that so few people practice this.
Mm. Mm.
But
Well, that's really that's your life purpose in a way, because everything in terms of your experience, it's knowing that you have actually been guided by your infinite nature right the way through. So all the experiences you've had have been completely valid and will be useful in terms of you delivering your version of effortless being based on all the experiences you've had.
I know I've cried many times thinking about how much I've been through and experienced. And when I came to the realization that I've experienced it to come from a place of service,
Mm.
it really opened my heart up very wide, wider than it's ever been.
Fantastic.
Yeah,
And that's the exact solution really, because everything in this world is designed to make us remain in service to individuality. But
right.
when we take the decision to be in service to our infinite nature, that's when it becomes truly effortless, because we're just being guided then.
Right. And it just feeds your heart and soul so deeply to be helping people out of
Mm.
pain.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's so much suffering that people don't know that they have the option of declining the invitation to.
Mm.
Yeah, it's incredible.
Mm.
Okay, thank you so
Fantastic.
much.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah, lovely to speak with you. How would you feel about our conversation being posted on my channel?
yeah, that would be great. I would love that.
Brilliant.
I would
That's
love that.
great.
This recording, am I going to be able to is it recording on my own
It
computer?
is, yeah. You can actually you could stop it now if you like, Christy. Can you see there's a little button probably in the top